My name is Morgan Jones. In this presentation, I will provide information on the evidence-based practice of self-regulation for students with disabilities. Self-regulation is a form of managing oneself, whether it is behaviorally or academically. Menzies and Lane define it as a student's ability to think about a task or action beforehand, monitor his or her performance during its execution, and then reflect on it to take additional action afterward. Both students with and without disabilities may struggle with self-regulation. However, students with disabilities are more likely to struggle with self-regulation due to the lack of control they may have over their behavior and cognitive thinking caused by their disability. Normally, self-regulating skills come naturally to students. This allows them to be successful socially and academically. Students with disabilities sometimes do not have the ability to self-regulate their behavior or during classwork and need the assistance of self-regulation strategies. According to Menzies and Lane, students who display behavioral problems such as aggression, noncompliance, little engagement, and low productivity have difficulty learning. It is also difficult for teachers to focus on the curriculum and instruction for these students. Teachers can implement a variety of strategies to promote self-regulation in their students so they can control their emotions and behaviors. Bryant, and Smith state that self-regulation strategies are useful because they actively involve the individual in the learning process and promote independence and decision-making. According to Waymeyer et al., these strategies also allow students with disabilities to be successful and participate better in the general education classroom. With reinforcements, students are more likely to decrease the unwanted problem behavior and increase the desired behavior. Self-regulation strategies implemented by teachers are designed to be individualized for each student. Teachers choose strategies that meet the needs of their students and will be helpful in achieving the desired outcome. For students displaying behavioral problems, Bryant, and Smith suggest techniques such as meditation or yoga, counting to 10, engaging in self-talk to work through a problem, and separating themselves from a situation that is problematic. For more serious behavioral problems, timeout and seclusion timeout are both interventions that can be used if necessary. Bryant, and Smith state that these techniques allow the student to be removed from a situation that is supporting negative behavior, reflect on the situation, and rejoin again. Although these techniques may be for more serious behavioral issues, students can still engage in self-regulation because this time away allows them to calm themselves down and think about what happened, and what they could have done instead to avoid it from happening again. Other self-regulation strategies, such as modeling and role-playing, require the teacher to take a more active role. The use of visuals, such as cue cards and self-recording methods, are extremely beneficial for improving self-regulation skills. A designated safe place in the classroom will also help students to self-regulate. This is a center where students can go to compose themselves so learning can continue. Safe places are filled with various tools and activities that lead students through the 5 steps of self-regulation. These steps include I am, I calm, I feel, I choose, I solve. Before selecting a self-regulation strategy, a functional behavior assessment, or FBA, can be used. According to Bryant, and Smith, FBAs help with determining why the problem behavior occurs so that teachers can decide on the best strategy to implement with the student. The results from the functional behavior assessment develops the Behavior Intervention Plan, or BIP. Educators collaborate together to write this plan that states how to change the unwanted behavior and teach skills for more appropriate and positive behavior. An example of a self-regulation strategy that teachers can implement are cue cards. Conderman and Heaton define cue cards as being instructional supports that help students organize, structure, and sequence their cognitive activities until those cognitive processes have been internalized. They are great tools for students to utilize for self-regulation and to gain independence. Cue cards can be used by students to manage their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, as well as being used for prompts and step-by-step guidance on assignments. Cue cards allow students with disabilities the opportunity to monitor, reflect on, and change their actions to be successful in the classroom. Cue cards are useful to students, according to Conderman and Heaton, because they are visuals that are portable and easy to access, since a teacher may not always be available to assist them. Cue cards are beneficial because they list steps needed to monitor behavior and academic skills. Conderman and Heaton believe that this is a good self-regulation strategy because it promotes attention, memory, and skill accuracy. Under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2004, or IDEA, students with disabilities have equal access to the general education curriculum. Conderman and Heaton state that using cue cards as a self-regulation strategy helps to ensure success for students with disabilities in general education classrooms. Cue cards are versatile because besides managing behavior, they also help to improve students' academic skills. They can be used for assignments in different content areas, including math, reading, and writing. According to Conderman and Heaton, they allow students with disabilities to complete multi-step tasks independently for behavioral expectations, communicating homework preparation tips, reinforcing learning strategy steps, and promoting higher-level cognitive tasks. Cue cards are flexible for any area where any student may require additional guidance to be successful. There are numerous strategies for self-regulation that teachers can select for their students. When implementing self-regulation strategies, it is important to understand that the strategies are individually selected for each student because what works for one student may not work for the next student. If a student is having a difficult time regulating his or her emotions or behaviors and is acting out in class, teachers can guide that student to participate in self-regulation. Teachers must remember to model positive behavior and techniques of self-regulating because it will help students to learn appropriate ways to handle situations. Other ways teachers can promote self-regulation in students is to provide visual activities and cue cards for the students to engage in. Students complete these visuals by going through the steps provided. The goals of using these techniques are to regulate their emotions and behaviors and learn new skills so they can self-regulate independently in the future. Cue cards can help students to recognize their emotions and behaviors, for example, by identifying what zone they are in or what number they currently are on. Students will then identify why they are feeling or acting a certain way and appropriate ways for them to regulate themselves so that they can display positive behaviors. In summary, it is important to remember that students with disabilities often struggle with managing their behavior and completing academic tasks. Self-regulation strategies can be implemented by teachers for students to work through their behaviors and class assignments. Self-regulation strategies assist the student with planning his or her desired behavior, monitoring his or her behavior as it's being carried out, and reflecting on his or her behavior afterwards. Self-regulation strategies help students gain the ability to manage themselves and be successful in the classroom. Students with disabilities benefit from self-regulation skills because they learn how to analyze their behavior, identify problems, determine why certain behaviors occur, predict when problems will arise, and learn how to avoid these incidents. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed learning more about the evidence-based practice of self-regulation.